Our fellow Amazonians, this is Dr. Cho Ayaba. I am making this address to the denizens of Fako. We are informed that the colonial SGO has banned the resistance in Fako. I don't know if he got some advice from the late mayor or from Musonge's brother who was killed in there. If he got any advice from them, he should hit to those advice, because it will be very, very relevant for him going forward. What I like our people in Fako to know is the bravery that has been demonstrated historically in Fako. Chief Kuva Likenye was a warrior who stood the test of time. He died in around 1893, 1894, after he had been exiled from Boya by the Germans. He died in Mokomba. So Kuva decided to rally about 300 to 500 Bakwarians to fight German exploitation. He was inspired by Efasamoto and by the founding father of Boya, Njeli Fanje. That is who inspired Kuvali Kenye. He stood the test of time. He fought like a warrior. He never succumbed to German power, German excesses, or their punitive exploitation. He was pushed into exile. He never begged his way back. And he took his last breath in 1894 as a warrior. Those are the breed of men who should inspire us on a daily basis as we face the atrocious activities of the monsters from Cameroon. What we have to know is this: no matter how we conduct ourselves, irrespective of how we have conducted ourselves all through our miserable existence as Amazonians, it has not altered the attitude of those who think they are entitled to determine how we live, and when we die. They have structured our country in a way that makes it impossible for us to pursue happiness, to create wealth and opportunities, and live a life in dignity. They have completely rejected the notion of compromise or ceding grounds on any issue, no matter how trivial, including issues like simply how students want the university to be governed, how teachers want examinations to be organized, or who should be the mayor in our own city and villages. Cameroon has not compromised on any of those things. How our parastatals like CDC are managed for hundreds of years, we have remained plantation workers in plantations that are ours, and there is no replication in development or opportunities. When I spoke about Singapore, I said Singapore makes $11.7 billion a year on palm. Singapore got palm from West Africa to generate an industry that gives it 11 billion pound, $11 billion. We are slaves in our own industries. The butchers from Cameroon think they can recruit a couple of us and give them a certain level of entitlement to continue to perpetuate a system that has given us nothing. We rose in resistance, imposing ghost towns to be able to send them a message that we mean business. Now, when you are in authority and those in rebellion institute different methods of resistance, from civil disobedience, including non-payment of taxes, to complete lockdowns of cities, including military actions like economic sabotage, assault on your military. You sit down and find a way of resolving the conflict, not to end the method they have chosen to resolve the conflict. A conflict is a palaver. What do you call palaver? It's a quarrel. It's an issue. War is a method to resolve that conflict. There are other methods to resolve the conflict. Negotiations. All what you are seeing, ghost towns, armed resistance, they are all methods we have employed to resolve the conflict because La République du Cameroun has refused vehemently to negotiate, to use non-violent method in resolving the conflict. So each time you find your forces rising up in arms, shooting around, it is because that is the only option left. Because if there were students in the University of Boya with going out for simple protests, they were shot and killed. If there were women in the market of Victoria in Newtown protesting for the right to vote and to elect their own mayors, they were shot and killed. If they were just children driving in a taxi in Boya, they were shot and killed. So when a state refuses the opportunity to sit down on a table and talk about its illegal presence in our country and using that illegal presence to exploit, to abuse us, to leave us in abject poverty, we have no other option than to employ other methods of resistance. And ghost towns are one of those methods. They are peaceful. We use Mondays to tell the world the impunity with which our land has been occupied and our people treated for the past 60-something years has to come to an end. We use Mondays to tell the world that your presence in our land is not accepted, that you should leave. We use Mondays to remind our prisoners that we think of you on a daily basis. We use Mondays to tell the families whose children are in the grave that they did not die in vain. The enemy fears Mondays because every Sunday, the colonial masters are ashamed to sit at home. They don't know what to tell their masters, the bloodsuckers of our people who live in Yaoundé, that the ordinary Ambazonian people who are less armed have defeated them, have the power to compel their citizens to stay at home. This is non-negotiable. This is not an attempt by us to punish anybody, because we were born in punishment. We were born in a big jail. You move from one sector of the jail, whether it is Mutengene, to the next sector of the jail, whether it is Munya, it is a prison. The only time some people escape that prison is taking treacherous journeys right across the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, right to Mexico to enter other people's country who fought and died. When the Americans started to fight, less than 50% of Americans supported the revolution. When George Washington was appointed as the commander of the American forces that were fighting for independence, and he went to Boston, he had no army. He had ragtag militias. He had the odious task of building an army from a confused militia against a well-armed British force. And he built that army with sheer and raw tenacity. Even when going forward, they were loyalists to the British who refused to succumb to the patriots' desire for a separate homeland that they could determine their own destiny. So what we face in Amazonia is not a new phenomenon. It's something you can observe across different struggles and different countries. Here in Norway, I spoke about Hitler attempting, after having taken over Norway, to change its educational system. About 1,200 teachers rose up in the face of the brutality when Hitler had appointed his own government in Norway. The king escaped to London. They picked up 500 teachers, took them to the northern part of Norway, the coldest part of this country. They refused to succumb. Teachers then went underground into the trenches to build resistance. When Hitler took over Poland, the Poles never surrendered. They went into the trenches in bomb buildings and fought like valiant soldiers. What the enemies from inside and outside are telling you is that it's difficult, so give up. You never aborted your baby even though you were struggling with a broken back with 6 months pregnancy. There's so many things you go through, you've never given up. What they are telling you is that it's so difficult. Run away to another person's country where they fought. Go to South Africa where they spent 75 years to 50 years. Go to Palestine, they've been 75 years. Oh, rush to Eritrea. Yes, you can fly to Rwanda. But think about it. The first commander that entered was killed before the current president came in. Within 100 days, 1 million Rwandans were butchered. Their bodies were floating in the seas. The Rwanda Patriotic Front never gave up. The Rwandans never blamed it for the suffering because they knew the pain was not that of those who have risen up to fight. It was imposed by the Habyarimana government and the Belgians. It will be tough, but you can't allow a colonial deal to come into your land. The same place when Chief Likenye rose up against a more powerful German army and fought them. And I want you in Boya to be inspired by the Efasamoto also. To be inspired by Likenye. And I ask our forces, don't blink. Stand the post. Any infiltrator, colonial apologists who want to test the resilience and resolve of Amazonians, make a choice between the patriots or the SDO colonial apologists. Make a choice to sympathize with those who keep our people in jail or those who stand to defend our land. Make a choice between the laws designed to protect the independence and sovereignty of our country and our resources, and the laws designed to extort, exploit, and murder. This is a choice you can make. And I know for the past 7 years, you've made your choice for Amazonia, as you demonstrated on the 11th of February. I ask you, Amazonians, to remind yourselves of those who have died. Don't remind yourselves of the difficulties. These difficulties were not imposed by Amazonian forces. The day you were born into slavery, possibly born at home or in the corridors of a dilapidated hospital. The schools your kids went to, you paid for those schools. The miserable jobs they are into, you've bribed your way into those jobs. To get an ID card from the enemy, you've bribed your way to getting it. To get a passport from the enemy, you've gotten a bribe to be able to get it. To be able to have dignity, you have to pay for it. Think about the cost of begging to succumb to an authoritarian system that gives you no hope, and the cost you must pay to emerge as a free people. Let the colonialist deal not dictate the terms of what happens in our country. And that cuts across the entire territory, including Donga and Manto, including Victoria. Those towns that continue to side with the enemy, we will not forgive you. I tell all the Cameroonians who have used their power of influence in terms of money, land titles through colonial DOs and mayors, the lands you've paid monies for belongs to Ambazonians. We will reclaim those lands. Our people must be resolved. It's not going to be a walk in the park. You may not see it. You may not enjoy it. You may not feel it. But as you take your last breath, remember what you've left behind. Children without a roof over their head, without education, or an inheritance they will transfer to the next generation.
I will start by requesting our King of Kings, our Founder of all Chief of Chiefs, His Excellency Paul there, to order a police post in Bakungo. We need a security post in Bakungo because
at the birthday, they be told to make a program Bakungo people. I be beg the development, see me come Bakungo. I say, they say, they say they don't want development. I don't apologize. I don't hear no development. I'm going to close the school. I beg more and bring back that people. Don't bring back this school. Bring back this school. Bring back this school. Anything when I wasn't apologize for, I don't apologize for. When I bring back these people, then we don't close the school. I bring back these people. I don't apologize. I don't even know what I apologize for. When I say I apologize to Babu people, and I have to apologize because they don't.
Welcome to ACN.